Hey all, welcome to Share Trek. This is Raj here. Friends, I could not make a video yesterday because my real estate practice has been taking more time from me of late. I have been busy doing the rounds with my clients, and yesterday evening when I came home, I didn't have the energy to write a script or sit in front of the camera. So big apologies for that. But today I have some interesting news for you, or my opinions out here. Guys, today I want to talk to you about a new wrinkle in the works for the market, one that could cause us more hardship and might exhaust the Fed. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. And if you're curious what it is, please watch until the end. I'm sure you're not going to be disappointed. Let's get started. Welcome back, friends. We are currently in a high interest regime in a bid to control inflation. I always thought that the inflation was due to supply chain issues, and interest rate hikes would not do much about bringing the inflation down. However, we now know that the inflation has kind of plateaued and we are in a wait and watch mode. The softness in inflation, in my opinion, came from lower oil prices, and also we now know that money supply volume has also decreased, and that bodes well from a demand perspective, because if money supply is lesser, there is less money available for people to demand goods and services, and therefore it's going to, from the demand side, it's going to bring down the inflation. However, the news that is now coming up in the media is that China and India are consuming more oil, and as a result of that, the prices are set to rise in the second half of the year. Now, friends, I personally do not believe this. In the last so many months, the media has been telling us that China is slumping, its manufacturing contracts are being snatched by other countries, its factories are running at half capacity, and their zero COVID policy has damaged the economy. The housing market is in doldrums. They have built more houses than required. And all those kind of negative news were in the media. How can all of a sudden China want so much extra oil if they were not doing well very recently? So that thing is a big mystery for me. And friends, if you recollect, US has been hammering China for a long time. It was a kind of a trade war right from the Trump days onwards. And even President Biden had put restrictions on integrated circuits and chips manufacturing. And then we have the Taiwan and China issue, which is creating a tension between US and China. So all these conflicts are there. And in the midst of all this, suddenly we are supposed to believe that in the second half of 2023, China is going to increase its oil consumption. So I don't know. It seems like it's a staged news media. It's trying to create some kind of opinion. We also had media telling us at that time that India was buying Russian oil, while India said that the West cannot force India to stop buying cheap oil from Russia and in turn compete with the wealthy nations in the ex-Russia oil pool, in which case the oil prices would have gone up further. The fact that India didn't enter the oil pool and it took oil from Russia has kept the oil prices lower. And the problem out there is that because Russia has sanctions against it from the US, they can't use their US dollars. So they sold oil to India using rupees, Indian rupees. Now they have so much of rupees with them that they have to buy something from India in order to realize the value. So that thing is going on in the background. And at the same time, Russia has to continue selling oil, which is their only main production, because the agriculture is almost decimated because of the Russia-Ukraine war. So they are going to have to sell oil some way or the other in order to make their economy work. And that oil is going to meet demands. So I do not see how India is going to boost more oil requirement unless they stop buying from Russia. India, of course, is going much faster, and Indian economy has been growing very, I would say, in a turbocharged manner. So, of course, their oil requirements will grow. But at the same time, India has also put a lot of solar farms, and it's working on green energy for cars. So it has done a lot of improvements in its energy consumption patterns. So that has helped them to a good extent. I mean, replacing bulbs with LED bulbs, and all those activities are taking place in India. So they are trying to curb their energy use, and also India has got companies that have got stakes in various countries for oil, so they would be supplying oil to India as well. So overall, I don't buy the argument that India and China are somehow in the second half going to boost oil requirements so much that oil price will go up. The other argument they have lined up as the second stage is that Europe was warmer than expected in 2022, and the implication being that 2023 is likely to be a harsher winter, and therefore Europe may end up consuming more energy than in 2022, and that is going to drive up energy prices. So the implication is that Europe will cause an increase in energy prices in the second half of 2023. So if the oil price thing did not work out with China and India, then Europe is the next candidate. Guys, I don't buy any of these arguments. I don't know about you, but I don't buy any of these arguments. When central banks in most countries raised interest rates to tamp down on economy, what they were actually doing was they were convincing people to keep money in the bank rather than spend it on consumption items. And they were convincing people that whatever money you have, just spend it on your necessities, or else the inflation rate will go up and the interest rates will go up. As a result of which, many of the people who had home equity lines of credit and all, they were not able to use their line of credit because the interest rates are high. So that demand came down. So when the central banks around the world increase the interest rates, it's going to bring the demand down. And when the demand is down, the production has to go down in order to maintain prices. So I don't know how oil demand will jump when production goes down, given that as the time moves around, as we go forward in time, productivity increases and cost of production decreases. So this is all mumbo jumbo to me. I don't believe any of this. I think this is just an excuse to boost oil prices. And I think the OPEC for good measure will jump in with production cuts if this story does not pan out. So that's my prediction. If this narrative succeeds and oil prices jump in second half of 2023, then we'll see inflation jumping again. How high can the interest rates go before there is mass foreclosures and human misery? This is absolutely nuts. Now, I think there seems to be a geopolitical tussle where there's a distinct push against the United States. I think those same forces will find a Trump 2024 presidency convenient and opportune. It will align with USA. It will align USA with Russia and against the European Union. Russia is already aligned with Turkey and Syria as well as China. Expect a lot of election meddling in the social media on the run-up to 2024 election. There might be a lot of misinformation. And I think that if Trump loses, he will be in jail. So he's going to pull all the stops. He has nothing to lose. And for the first time in history, we'll see ugly things in the presidential election, because the other side believes that if Trump becomes president, then US is going to descend into dictatorship or oligarchy, and they are going to fight as hard as possible. And the same way, India is going to polls in 2024. And since the first quarter of 2023 and the end of 2022, I have been seeing old issues being raked up. I am familiar with the Indian political scene. I left India 25 years ago, but I have investments in India in terms of shares and mutual funds. So I actively look at the markets there and the political scene. I have kept touch. Recently, the end of 2022, they dragged up an old case against the Prime Minister, which was already settled by the Supreme Court and many investigatory committees, that the Prime Minister was not at fault, but they raked it up all over again, and it came through BBC. And at the same time, there was the Hindenburg attack on one of the biggest conglomerates in India, the Adani Group. All of these things happened in order to create embarrassment for the current government. And now there is another video that has circulated of violence against women in Manipur, which is the northeastern part of India. And that video was recorded 5 months ago, and it has surfaced just now, just before the beginning of the monsoon session of the Parliament of India, in order to create more embarrassment for the government. The idea is to dislodge the current government, and there seems to be a common thread between what is happening globally, and I look at it as a geopolitical struggle to change the global order. I don't know what you guys think. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I would like to hear from you because we are influenced by the media that we read and the friends that we talk to and the information that we are exposed to. I would like to hear from you, each one of you. Put it in the comment what you think is happening right now and how it's going to turn out. I would like to understand your theories as well. And so likewise, the oil crisis, I think, is being artificially manufactured to interfere in the US election, because if the inflation goes out of control and people are unhappy, people lose their jobs, people lose their house, then definitely there is no way the Democrats can win. And that's going to create a very bad situation in the election for the ruling party. Now, U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said she expects oil demand in the U.S. to increase to 12.5 million barrels per day this year and to make further gains in 2024. She added that we want prices to come down. The president is really focused on the impacts on real people who need to get to work and cannot afford the premium.
Energy Information Administration does its projections, and it has taken into account the diminution in supply globally, the cutbacks from OPEC. But we're also seeing the projection that we are going to, in the United States, we'll get to about 12.5 million barrels per day, which is a record, a little bit over that perhaps, 12.56. So we expect that we'll still...
For 2023 or 24?
For 2023, and then even more in 2024. So I think that we feel like there's been a stabilization and that the production in the United States has kept pace.
I think we'll need to watch oil futures carefully to see who is winning in this narrative war. And one of the things I conveniently did not find in any of the press release is increase in oil production capacity. Friends, if oil prices go up, I can guarantee you that people are going to scramble from every possible way to increase the number of shifts and pump out more oil, refine more oil, and meet the supply, because there is money to be made. So I don't believe in the current narrative that is being set, and I would like to hear from you guys. With that, my friends, I would like to end this video here. I'll catch up with you again tomorrow. Bye for now and enjoy your weekend.